I know that's what I said.
Today is Wednesday, June 25th, 2025, and the time now is 6 p.m. And we are calling to order the meeting of the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority. Call roll.
President Thompson,
Present.
Vice President Duffy,
Here.
Secretary Flores,
Here.
Director Montgomery,
Here.
Director Kirkland.
Here.
Thank you. Item 3 is citizen communication. Do we have any tonight? No? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 4, approval of the minutes. 4A, consider approval of the BCRUA meeting minutes for April 23rd, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. We'll move on to item 5, staff reports. 5A, consider a status update from the general manager regarding BCRUA capital improvements. I'm sorry, capital projects.
Good evening, President and Board of Directors. Aaron Archer is here tonight to give us an update on the projects we have going on.
Okay, good evening. I'm going to run through our capital projects and give you guys an update on Phase 2, the 2 plant expansions, 1D and 2A, and also the delivery point improvements project. On the raw water delivery system, Phase 2, on a time basis, we're now at about 65% of the way through from our NTP back in June of 2022. On a cost basis, the contractors billed about $124 million of the $225 million contract, which takes us to approximately 55% complete. We're still sitting at one change order for $237,000 to make some connections to the Cedar Park generators that were installed recently. No change in time for the contract. I want to give you an overview of some of the recently completed work. The contractor's been really working through a lot of major items. They've completed some major milestones out there recently. First, they have completed all of the concrete work associated with the intake tunnel from the intakes in Valente back to the pump station. They've demobilized all of that gear, and they've pivoted over to working on concrete for finishing up the main shaft of the suction chamber, and you can see a photograph of some of the rebar going in for that work. Significant form work and concrete exercise associated with it, and all of that concrete work is also being completed. Now, the contractor has also finished installing the pump casings. You may recall those are the 6 individual shafts that were completed for the pumps out there. And the contractor has also submitted to us a recovery schedule that addresses all of our major comments, and so we've approved that schedule with minor comments at this point. All of the sequencing, all of the activities are captured, and it shows an on-time completion for the project. Some major upcoming work. The contractor has geared back up out at the maintenance building site in Valente, and they're working on the building foundation. They're also working on installing chemical lines from the building out to the intakes in the lake, anticipating that we'll move into some of the final marine construction out there for the screens and the tie-ins for that chemical system in the fall. And the contractors also started work now on the foundation for the pump station. They're kind of working on the foundation on one end of the site as they complete the underground concrete work at the other end of the site. So a lot of progress in the last couple of months. Pivoting to Phase 1D, that contract now has an estimated substantial completion date of late August. That schedule has been slipping, so we're working with the contractor to try to address those delays. On an invoice to date basis, they're at 87%, or just under $15 million of a $17 million contract, still with one change order. The contractor has completed all of the work on the major structures for that plant expansion. They've also started up most of the equipment associated with pretreatment and the thickener. They still have some work they need to complete, mostly on the electrical side for the new filter that was installed. They have some chemical feed system work they need to complete, and then they're working on commissioning and startup. We anticipate that they're going to move into a mandatory 30-day demonstration period where they start the plant up in July. And once they complete that 30-day period satisfactorily, we can declare that project substantially complete. For the Delivery Points Improvements Project, I've been reporting to you on phase 1 and 2. Phase 1 of that project is now complete. Phase 2 has a completion date of the end of July. So these projects are both nearing completion, and on the phase 2 project, they again are moving into this mandatory demonstration period to show that everything's functioning, and then we can declare that complete. For the phase 2A water plant expansion project, where we'll increase the capacity of the water plant up to about 64 MGD, all of the design work has been completed. We've been going through permitting at this point with responding to comments from the City of Cedar Park, also the TCEQ and Water Development Board. We had a very good phone call with TCEQ this week, trying to deal with some of the delays that we're getting in that regulatory review. They agreed that some of the variances they were asking us to submit didn't apply for that project, which I think will pave the way for them to approve that more quickly. We do want to bid that project as soon as possible. The regulatory review process has cost us about a month, and so we're pushing hard to get that project bid so we can award it and get a contractor started in early fall to maintain our substantial completion date of May 2028. I've got some news to report on the SWIFT funding application for Phase 2A for the SWIFT funds that Round Rock and Leander are pursuing. We did get that final application submitted to the Water Development Board. They came back with some comments that we were able to quickly address. We anticipate that the Water Development Board will approve those the SWIFT applications rather, in July. And then in August, BCRUA will approve the Water Development Board financing agreement, which later will be ratified by the City of Leander. Water Development Board will then sell the bonds, which at that point will set the interest rates in September. And then in October, BCRUA will approve the bond resolution that awards the sale of that contract revenue bond. And then closing has typically occurred usually early to mid-November when the AG office takes over the closing. So we will have a few more items coming back to you for the SWIFT process here in short order. And then lastly, I wanted to give you an update on the drought. We've been tracking that, obviously concerned about lake levels and what the impact that may have to the floating intake out on the lake. As a reminder, we would need to start decommissioning activities for the floating intake if the lake fell down to an elevation of 623. Current lake level is about 637, give or take a little bit. We did have some inflows in June after an abnormally dry May. Looking forward at LCRA's forecast, I have the June 1st update, which is the latest update here on the plot. And you can see if we stay in extreme dry conditions that we still are not predicted to go below 623 in 2025. So that's really good news. I don't see a situation where we're probably going to need to start pulling the trigger on decommissioning activities this year. And generally the lake stays at a pretty constant level through the winter. So we will continue to track that and report back to you on drought conditions, but it looks like this year we'll be able to avoid having to start decommissioning activities. Any questions on the capital projects?
You, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question, sorry.
No, go ahead.
When you mentioned the recovery schedule, you thought that we would be on track. Is that on track to where we thought it was going to end the first time, or was that date extended, I guess is the question.
So they're back. The current recovery schedule shows an on-time project completion for our substantial completion date of February 17, 2027. So the schedule would show that the work could be performed with some of these additional measures in place, like weekend work and other measures they've had to take to recover their schedule. And the sequencing and everything that we can review on that appears to be correct. Now, the contractor still has to perform. They've got 2 years of work in front of them, but on paper, they have a workable schedule.
Thank you. And then regarding kind of the regulatory oversight of the whatever project.
Phase 2.
Yeah. You said that those are kind of quickly resolved when you gave them, you gave them your responses. Is that just government bureaucracy where they didn't know what they were asking, or?
That is having multiple people in the agency having different opinions and getting them all to sit around on a phone call together to hash it out and hear our perspective.
But once you got everybody together, it seemed to be easily resolved, or resolved faster.
Once we got them all together and pushed our perspective, they agreed, but it took some time.
Thank you.
Since you asked a question, I'll go ahead. Looks like you're going in September, October out for bonds. What's the interest rate we're looking at right now?
I don't know the current interest rate.
I know you're the engineer,
I'd
not
need
the
to check
finance
with
guy.
Gary Kimball. I could go find that information, but it wouldn't be locked till a future date. But he could probably give a good estimate on it.
All right, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to 5B, consider a status update from the general manager regarding drought conditions.
Aaron he just.
That's what I thought, but
Okay.
it's, are you good with that?
We went out of order, sorry.
Oh, okay. Just-
No
Nothing.
no further on that item.
Okay, we'll move on. Thank you. And we'll move on to item 6, which are resolutions, and we have quite a few tonight, so stick with us. 6A, consider a resolution accepting the BCRUA quarterly investment report for January 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2025. Welcome.
I'm happy to introduce Mr. Otis Williams, the recently confirmed CFO for the city of Leander, who's going to present the report tonight.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Good evening to you, board members. Otis Williams, CFO for the city of Leander, and I'm here to present the quarterly investment report for March 31st, 2025. I'm going to start out first with the Federal Reserve rate expectations for 2025. The market participation, it anticipates 3 rate cuts from the Federal Reserve in 2025, with a current rate of 4.1% of unemployment. The federal chairman indicates that there's a stable labor market, but inflation remains above the target. There's expected to be 3 federal rate cuts in 2025. The current unemployment rate is 4.1%, which is historically low. Fed chair also indicates the labor market is stable. Inflation is above the 2% target. Treasury rates and market performance. The U.S. Treasury yield curve showed mixed results in March, with a slight decrease in short-term and intermediate-term interest rates. The Treasury yield curve was mixed in March. Short-term and intermediate-term interest rates were slightly lower. Now let's move to the portfolio compliance and performance matrix. Just want to point out that this investment portfolio complies with the Texas Public Funds Investment Act with a weighted yield average of about 3.6% and an average credit rating of AA, which in my opinion is pretty good, very good. The portfolio is pretty much allocated to money markets at 67%. Bank deposits are at 18.2%, and commercial paper is at 14.3%. To give you a quarterly portfolio summary, the portfolio market decreased from 168.5 million to 166.4. However, the unrealized gain or loss remained at 0, which again is very good at this point. Last but not least, I want to talk about the quarterly portfolio summary, which is on page 9 of your report. The quarterly over quarter change in the market value in interest fund, earned fund. The total market decreased by 2.5 million. Total earnings for the quarter was at $1.2 billion. Just to summarize again, the investment type for bank deposits, money market funds, and commercial paper, the annual yield for maturity across investments, as I mentioned earlier, is at 3.6%. And once again, the total earnings for the quarter came in at $1.2 billion. Questions or comments?
Thank you. Have any questions? No? We're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this is an action item.
I move to approve as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Now we'll move to 6B, consider a resolution approving BCRUA annual operating budget for fiscal year 2025 to 2026, subject to the approval of the participating cities.
Good evening, and this item tonight is for the annual consideration of the operating and debt service budget. We've worked pretty hard on it this time of the year, and the master contract requires it to be done basically 3 months before the city's fiscal year budgets are approved, usually in August or September. And so we have to get our BCRUA budget in time so that they can factor that all into their budgeting process, and it's been that way since the beginning. And so we are finished with our budget work, and have a brief PowerPoint for you to explain it to you tonight. Just real quickly, I will point out on this cover slide, those are brand new photos. One on the left is the treatment plant, shows phase 1D. I think Aaron probably had the same picture in his presentation, but it's such a beautiful project, I couldn't resist putting it in the cover page. And then on the right is the phase 2 deep water pump station. Next slide, please. So just real quick, some highlights of it. The total operating budget, excluding debt service, is $7.18 million. This is an 11.2% increase over FY25, which sounds, maybe doesn't sound great, but it's a lot lower than the increase we had in 25, which was 21%. And I've got some more data on that I'll show you in a moment. We think we're heading in a good direction on our budgeting. The total debt service budget is $30.79 million. It's a little under $2.5 million more than last year's, but I will mention that this doesn't include, it includes the estimated 2025 SWIFT loan payment that will be made by Leander in 2026, but it does not include debt service payments that Round Rock will be making on the Phase 2A project, because they're not, it won't be considered debt service because they're not doing a SWIFT loan. So anyhow, it's just kind of a nuance there. But basically, the new debt service is mostly associated with Phase 2A. The total water take estimate of the 3 cities combined is 18.4 million gallons per day. That's a 1.75 MGD increase over last year, which is 10.5%, and pretty moderate. And of all the line items, as you'll see in a moment, power and chemicals had the largest increase, which is pretty typical. Both of those are tied heavily to the flow. The higher the flow, the more electricity and the more chemicals we use. And I will say that chemicals, we saw some chemical increases in the last 3 years that haven't been tracked really carefully, and we really nailed those this year as far as figuring out exactly what happened with those. And so now that's factored, nicely factored into our projections. The budgeted cost per 1,000 gallons has stayed steady over last year. It's basically the same. It's 1 penny per 1,000 gallons more than last year. We went from $1.06 per 1,000 gallons to $1.07 per 1,000 gallons, which is I was really happy with that. And then lastly, I will say this kind of a theme of the budget that we kind of just really discovered as we started working through it is that we're seeing a downward trend in our year-over-year percent increase in some of our major categories like repairs and maintenance, and which I think is a good thing. It shows we're getting a good baseline on our budgets, and so I'm looking forward to future years being a much smaller year-over-year increases, except for things due to increased flow and any, of course, inflationary stuff. Next slide, please. This is the big budget sheet that we won't really go into detail on, but it is the one that we use, pretty frequently, and it drives all the roll-ups of the big categories. And I know y'all seen this before. We keep trying to improve on it every year a little bit, making it a little easier to read for the OC and the finance people that do look at it pretty regularly. And so anyhow, that's that. If anybody ever wants to go back for a detailed question, we can do that. Next slide, please. This is the two-year budget comparison. Basically, it's this really the FY25 versus FY26. It's kind of a year-over-year change just for those 2 fiscal years for 8 different the major categories, which you can see there. They're plant personnel, repairs, maintenance, supplies and materials, electricity, chemicals, contract services, capital outlay, other, contingency, and additional reserve. And so so that shows the changes, and the cumulative change overall is 11.22%, as I said earlier, and you can see what the individual changes in each category are. And here's what I will say, that it doesn't really tell the whole picture. The next slide actually tells a little more about how that's trending. We'll go back one more real quick. Sorry, Monique. So, but the bottom 5 rows that is kind of the summary. The total operating budget is there, the total debt service budget, the reserve operating account, and which went up interestingly. Well, anyway, it didn't go up very much this year. And then it's got the total budgeted MGD, and then there at the very bottom it has the O&M cost per 1,000 gallons. Okay, next slide. This is the slide I put together that shows a comparison of the year-over-year increase of those 8 major categories from 23 to 24 versus 24 to 25 versus 25 to 26. And I've got, lots of people do it in different ways, but I just keep a lot of statistical data, and then I look at it to see how we're doing. And when I put this together, I saw a trend that we're heading in the right direction as far as our year-over-year increases in those major categories. As you can see in 23, 24 were pretty high, and they've been dropping every year since. And I hope that we can continue that going forward. Next slide, please. And this is the last slide. This is the exhibit A that goes in the resolution that is before you tonight, and the top table is basically what the board is approving, the total operating budget and of $7.179 million, and then you can see how it's allocated amongst the 3 cities, and then same with the debt service budget, and then the total budget. And then the table below that is the CIP budget. And that is very similar to last year's, except we updated the Phase 2A expansion budget. But I will make a note that those numbers are the numbers that we put in the SWIFT application. So Hopefully those are high, and hopefully once we get bids in, that those numbers will be hopefully considerably less. But anyway, I updated those from last year. With that, I'd be happy to go back to any slide and answer any questions, or just answer any questions y'all might have.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work and the team's work on this budget and getting it done. Do y'all have any questions or comments?
No, I already mentioned, I like seeing the change in the person. I mean, that's very helpful, and we knew, because we did a lot of maintenance that had been kind of put on hold or just, I don't want to say overlooked, just not completed, so now we understand that, so thank you for that.
Anything? All right. Well, I will make a motion to approve this budget as presented.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to item 6C. Consider a resolution authorizing the president to execute an engagement letter with Weaver and Tidwell LLP for annual financial audit services.
This resolution authorizes the president to execute an engagement letter with Weaver and Tidwell for the 2025 annual financial audit services. The 4-year contract, or really it was 1 year with 3 renewals, that contract, which was approved in FY21, expired with last year's audit, FY24. So that meant it was time to go through the RFQ process again, which the Cedar Park purchasing people, they put out their RFQ earlier. It was right after the first of the year. And so we went through a qualification process for, since it's professional services, it's not really a bid. And a review committee was put together that is comprised mainly of finance people from what we call the finance committee from the 3 cities. And of course the OC was presented the results at OC meetings. As a result of the RFQ, we got 8 responses, and from all really good firms, and the finance people did a very thorough analysis, a grading, a ranking of all the firms that submitted, and as it turned out, Weaver and Tidwell, by not a real slight margin, really got the highest scores of any of the firms that submitted, and therefore they're being recommended to provide those services again. And so we worked with them on an engagement letter, a contract, which I can tell you the fee is essentially, it's roughly within a couple $1,000s of what it was last year, so it hasn't really changed. And I think everybody was really happy with the services that they provided to us. So we are recommending the approval of the resolution and the engagement letter with them, which will be, and each year we will, assuming there's not any issues that come up, we will bring back an engagement letter for your consideration.
Thank you. All right, this is an action item.
Move to approve as presented.
I'll second. All right, all those in favor say
I just had
aye.
a question, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sam, is this for 1 year, you might have said this, I missed it. Is this 1 year at a time? Is this a 3-year engagement?
If it's a 1-year contract, and then the contract doesn't guarantee that there'll be additional contracts each year for 3 years. It's really not even in the contract. But that's it's presumed, because it's professional services, it's not required to be selected based on qualifications. Well, it has to be selected based on qualifications, but it doesn't have to be competitively advertised. So anyway, so yeah, every year it has to come back before y'all for approval. But what I will tell y'all is, because this is the way it's been done every 4 years, is that kind of unofficially we will bring the same firm back unless there's something that that we're not happy with, and we of course would tell y'all.
Thank you.
All right, we had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Moving on to item 6D, consider a resolution authorizing the president to execute supplemental contract number 16 with Walker Partners, Freeze and Nichols joint venture for the BCRUA Phase 2 raw water delivery system.
This is a supplemental contract with Walker Partners for, in general terms, SCADA work for and it's really for the Phase 2 and the Phase 2A project. It's a very technical scope of services because it's SCADA, supervisor control and data acquisition. It's all the screens you see at the water treatment plant, and same with wastewater plants. All industrial facilities have these giant SCADA systems, and they bring in data, real-time data from all sorts of instruments and motors and flow meters and all this stuff that comes in, and it displays it in varieties of screens. Well, the BCRUA SCADA system has been, because it gets expanded each time we have a treatment plant expansion. Well, each time it's been expanded, we've had a different contractor, because there's really like 3 main SCADA contractors that pretty much control the market around. I don't know if it's the United States, but it's definitely in Central Texas, probably, because the companies that do the work are very large, and it's a pretty high-tech industry. Well, they are a subcontract to the general contractor, that's the way all projects are done, and so because of that, we've had different contractors working on it, and through no fault of their own, it's gotten to be kind of confusing and wonky as far as the standards and the way the screens are the way they're presented. And so we have this opportunity to and really it's really a need to do it, and it's a great opportunity because combined with that, because the guys make it work. I mean, if you saw our SCADA system, it's very professional. It's just a little confusing sometimes. And I will tell you, we added them up today. There's almost 50 different screens. When you go to the big SCADA screen, there's 19 tabs at the bottom, and each tab, when you click on it, it's another big screen. And these screens have pipes and pumps and tanks and water flows and all sorts of data, just real time. It's just on. They're very cool, but then within each one of those tabs, there's more screens, and so anyhow, well, our SCADA software has come to the end of its life. We found out over the last 6 months, it's been talked about, and as y'all know, I'm not an expert at this, but it's when a big software like accounting software, when it reaches its end of life and you have to go to the next version, it's not just like you don't just like change it out. It's a complete wholesale new reinstall. So it's a great opportunity for us to basically fix all of the kind of the confusing stuff in the system. And because we have Phase 2A coming on, getting ready to go under design and getting ready to go under construction, there's a ton of SCADA work with that. It's going to expand the SCADA system even more. And Phase 2 also has a tremendous amount of SCADA data that's going to be coming into the SCADA system. And so all these things are kind of happening at the same time. So then we started talking about, well, how can we clean all this thing up and accomplish all these goals? And it was decided that, well, we need to have a big effort to do that. And then we talked about, well, how are we going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for it? And in the end, it was because the way costs are allocated, the OC agreed that it was the most equitable way to do it was just use the Phase 2 project. Number one, there's money in the contract, more than adequate money. And number two, the way the costs are allocated amongst the 3 cities is more equitable, as opposed to Phase 2A. Even though Phase 2A is initially just going to serve 2 cities, all that SCADA work is going to serve everybody. And and that's why we put this contract in Phase 2A. So anyway, that's probably more than y'all want to hear, but we're really excited about it because it gives us a chance to have a SCADA system that all the operators for years to come can be able to walk up to and go, oh, because Anyway, I won't go, you get me going on it, they'll be happy that we did this. And so this supplemental contract is $498,000. And we have, Aaron and his team, we've scrubbed it really hard because it's pretty complex. And we're very happy with it, and we're recommending approval of it tonight.
Thank you. Can you speak to the life of the new system? I know you said before the other one has come to the end of its useful life. What do we expect? How long do we expect this one to last?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, Ignition is the name of the software. Ignition is like it's the gold standard around the country now, maybe even the world. And y'all, I can find that out, but whatever it is, our ignition system, it's I don't know, I bet we've had it at least 5 years, and maybe longer. But I can find that out. But it is what it is. I know, and Ignition, there's, that's the software to go with. There's no debate about that. So,
Thank you.
good question. Sorry, I don't have.
That's okay. You can get it back to me. It's no problem. Other comments or questions? Yes.
Yeah, question either for Sam or Aaron. So this is just the design and kind of putting what we need out of the system for our purposes, right? And so then we're kind of creating our list of requirements and then providing it to the software company. Then they will implement that into the software company, to the software based on our requirements? Is that?
Well, the answer is yes, but it's actually more than that, Renee, and that's a really good question because that's what I've been harping on for a long time is because there's so many people involved. Well, this contract, a big part of their services, they have to ensure. They're going to come up with the standard. We're going to develop the company, McKim & they're a big electrical engineering company, and they do this stuff all the time, and they're subcontracted to Walker Partners, and they're doing work for us. They're a fantastic company. Well, they're going to develop all the SCADA standards for all the symbols, all the symbology, all the screens, blah, blah, blah. And then the integrators for the software company, they actually do all the programming to bring the signals in and build the screens. But then the contract requires that our consultant has to be the go-between, like the inspector. They're going to be our, am I saying this right, Aaron? They're going to be the inspector to ensure that it's done to everybody's liking. And that's one thing we're very, it costs a lot to do that, but it's really important because if you don't, you're just kind of at the mercy of what they give you.
Okay, I think I understood that. So we're telling them what we need. They're massaging it into the software, and then they're just giving it back to us based on what we told them we needed. Is what
But if we're not happy with it, we'll make them change it as we go along.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions or changes? All right. This is action items.
I move to approve as
Second.
presented.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Moving on to item 6E, consider a resolution expressing official intent to reimburse certain expenditures of the City of Round Rock from contract revenue bonds for the expansion of the BCRUA water treatment plant.
Are you doing that one, Steve?
Your name is on it, so.
So actually, this is more of a bond council issue than I don't know everything about. But I just know that whenever anytime that we are intending to issue bonds, that the IRS says that we need to adopt a resolution expressing official intent that the City of Round Rock will be reimbursed from the bonds for those expenditures. So this is a resolution that the board needs to approve, and then the city council will also approve that.
It's pretty
No, I really don't have
straightforward.
anything
Pretty
to-
straightforward, like, yeah.
And
I was going to ask Renee if he had anything to add.
Well, I will tell you, I do know that the City of Round Rock is going to be passing an identical resolution, and if they haven't already, maybe.
It may be, is it?
We did.
Is it?
Oh, okay.
Is it on tomorrow night? Yeah, tomorrow night.
And so it's really a matter of, it's more of a formality for the BCRUA to
Right.
also do it.
Right. You know, BCRUA is actually issuing the bonds, but Round Rock's paying them back, basically.
Thank you. All right. It's the action item.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 6F, consider a resolution authorizing the president to execute an agreement with Brentag Southwest, Inc. for the purchase of water treatment chemicals.
This item is a resolution authorizing execution of a chemical services agreement. We have five. There's five of them on the agenda. And I apologize for not having I should have, in hindsight, I should have a PowerPoint slide for this, but you can, if you look at your agenda item, just item 6F, what kind of tells the whole story is the summary table at the bottom of the, oh, it's at the bottom of my item in case.
It's there.
Well, so what we did was that BCRUA's never had, they would never competitively bid chemicals before. And I don't know exactly why it's difficult and it requires a lot of assistance from finance departments and kind of the way we set it up, you know, that's some of the stuff that the BCRUA doesn't have well. But yeah, we've known it's been something we need to do. And it's been kind of on my list of things to get done, but it's just kind of a pretty challenging thing. And with Steve coming on as general counsel, he's been very helpful in standardizing a lot of other vendor contracts I think y'all seen already. So anyway, the City of Cedar Park's purchasing department graciously helped us issue an RFP earlier this in spring, and for chemicals. And said we haven't done it, but the other cities have done it. So we had a lot of good examples to go off of. But the devil was in the details, really, as far as the actual chemicals themselves and the way you describe them and blah blah blah. Well, so we did that. If there's 8 chemicals, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 chemicals that we issued RFPs or IFBs, invitation for bids, and we got. God, is that right? We got 7 responses. I mean, 8 responses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, we got 11 responses. But as a result of that, we awarded all of the chemicals all of the bids that were based on low bid, except for one of them, and that was the sodium hypochlorite. You can see in that bid tab, the lowest bidder was a company called Univar Solutions, and the second lowest was Brentag. Well, they were only a few dollars difference, and we have no experience with Univar at all, and we were pretty, and that's the most important chemical we use. It's the one we use the most of, and because it was only, and Brentag has been our supplier of that chemical for many years. Well, the RFPs have they give the BCRUA the ability to make the selection based on best value, which includes experience and reputation and things like that. So, but other than that, all the other chemicals are being awarded based on low price. And so as a result, what we have is 5 contracts that we've got in the agenda tonight. And this is the first one. The first one was Brentag, and it's for 4 different chemicals. And then the other 4 contracts after this agenda item, they're identical as far as the wonky description I'm giving you. They're the same process, but different chemical, in a different vendor. But this first one is authorizing an execution of an agreement with Brentag for purchase of, it's really for 4 different chemicals, and that's described in the contract in detail. And if you, well, if you want me to go into detail about the chemicals they're being approved for, I'd be happy to, but it's in the summary sheet.
Thank you. I would say I'm really excited to see this process that's implemented now will help us be consistent on the selection process. But you also talked about it saving us money compared to what was being done before on the chemicals that are being ordered. So thank y'all for getting this in place. Are there any other comments or questions?
Do we have to make any changes on page 28? Jason's no longer a member of this board.
Page 28?
The conflict of interest questionnaire.
Oh.
Says sign if applicable.
I can't tell you yet. His, well, you know what, when they did the RFP, I think,
Yeah, he probably was a member at the time.
yes, he was a member at the time. And that's why you see that in their response. So I don't think we need to make a change to that.
Okay.
All right, so seeing there are no further comments or questions, I'll make a motion to approve this item as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? A motion carries for that. Do you have
You
presentation?
didn't get a second for that.
He did.
Oh, we did, okay.
Yeah. Renee seconded, right?
Yes, second.
For items 6G, 6H, 6I, and 6K, do you have a separate presentation, or can we take those
Well,
all?
ma'am, it's this, yeah, the OC and the finance committee and staff and legal staff recommend approval of each one of those with the same, it's the same basis as the first one.
All right. And do y'all have any other comments or concerns about either one of these items? And we'll take them all together.
So I just, one question, and we're, so they're 1 year with 4 optional 1-year renewals, and then is part of, I would imagine part of the RFP, or they'll update us as far as if there's any supply chain issues. Like we have enough, there's enough supply, like we're not gonna get into a situation where, because that's just a lot of contracts to keep track of, that's.
Yeah, so this one, this contract does not come back every year. It automatically renews, I'm sorry. I should have gone.
So I was a twofold that I asked, is just kind of like, if we're coming back and reviewing, and then just,
Oh,
and then also, is it automatic renewal, and then also we're assured of, like, supply, like, what's that guarantee piece on the supply?
you mean the actual vendors?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
their
Just
obligation
because
to let us know?
there's so many different ones in there.
No, absolutely.
Pull a lot of levers there.
That's a great question. I can tell you, with Brentag especially, they've been a provider. They've got some of the largest chemicals in this contract, and they've been very responsive. And some of it, like there's 1 or 2 that we've never used before, but we, and Steve and I have had lots of conversations about this, and I can tell you, if there's a problem, we will switch in a heartbeat. And because we can purchase chemicals, we can, anytime we need to with a purchase order, and it's health and safety. So, but we hope not, because
Okay.
we
Yeah,
are
I
getting.
mean, that's worst case for sure, but just a lot of contracts to keep track of, a lot of vendors, so.
Absolutely, and well, and the Chris Kohler, our superintendent, he's a chemical guy, because the chemicals at the plant, it's really one of the most important things that happens, If you don't have them and you don't add them properly, you don't get good, safe treated water. So anyway, we take that the utmost importance.
So you can confirm we have a schedule in place for what we need to order and all of that? So
Absolutely.
we shouldn't be running out or having
No.
issues like that?
We, no.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions or comments? before we Move on, all right. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the president to execute the agreement with Chemray Inc. for the purchase of water treatment chemicals.
Second.
All right, motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll make a motion for the resolution, to approve the resolution authorizing the president to execute an agreement with Chemtray Chemicals US LLC for the purchase of water treatment chemicals.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Any
Aye.
opposed? The motion carries. All right. And I'll make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the president to execute an agreement with Penco Inc. for the purchase of water treatment chemicals.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. And last one, 6K, I'll make a resolution authorizing the president to execute an agreement with Polydyne Inc. for the purchase of water treatment chemicals.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the motion carries. And we will move into item 7, Director of Closing Comments. And we'll start with Vice President Duffy.
Thank you. A lot of work. I always like when the budget goes smoothly, and I appreciate all of the extra details, Sam. Thank you.
All right, Secretary Flores.
No, likewise, I appreciate everybody's time and effort to getting us to this point. That's a lot of work, Sam and your team, the OC, the finance people. So thank you, everybody, for all you do.
All right. And Director Montgomery
Good night, everyone.
and Director Kirkland.
I've been able to see the Cedar Park cicada system work. It's amazing how much detail you can pick up pretty quickly just as a layperson looking at those screens and everything. So I think this will help to ensure that we're monitoring everything involved in the process of the operation. And with that, everybody have a wonderful evening.
Excellent. Well, thank you to the whole team for all the work that was done to get this budget together and to make sure we have all the systems in place that we need to operate efficiently and effectively. So thank you all for that. All right, if nothing more, the time is now 6:54 and we are adjourned.
All right, who wants the tree trunk?